Welcome back to the Model Railroad. Last time we installed the merchant's warehouse by adding roads and concrete pads. And when I did all that construction, I also pulled the road over the siding tracks to the Golden Flame Blue Coal Company. And that's when I put in the dirt road as well. But I also put dirt in place for the coal company. I colored it with gray pastels to make it more look like crushed gravel rather than dirt. Grass was added, as we've seen before, and I don't want to repeat this filming, but it's simply PVA glue and flocking. So here's a picture of a mock-up of the building and how I wanted to initially be laid out. This quick layout also made me look at all those fuel tanks. Something just looks off. So let's get working on making them look a little better. I grabbed some 1-inch square thin pieces of balsa and gave them a quick splash of concrete color. But they still needed a second coat, so the airbrush helped to get a smooth overall coverage. Then I just placed the tanks on top, but it still looked too scant. Something wasn't right. The pads helped, but something just doesn't look right. So I had some solid core copper wire from when I changed out the basement fluorescent lights to LED, and I just cut off a chunk and stripped all the insulation off to leave the bare copper. And then I came back using my PE bending jig and bent some pipes for the tanks. A little hook to go over the top, and then one that ran down the side like a pressure relief valve, I guess, or it could be a filling tank. I don't know. Just something to add some character. I took these little bent pieces and primed them black and hit them with some silver paint. And then I just used some CA glue and plopped them onto the tanks. And now the tanks were loosely connected together. Although I did have to re-glue the piping a couple of times because that bond's not super strong. And then I just used PVA glue to attach the tanks to the wooden pads because model cement is not going to work. CA would have worked as well, but I kind of like having it not be a permanent solution. So while all that glue dried, I found some leftover decals from a couple model kits. On the sheets, I found 2 different size numbers in white. So each tank was labeled either as Tank 1 or Tank 2. You can see that I also added a plastic I-beam that I painted metallic to act as a bumper guard, and it also helped to keep the 2 tanks tied together to 2 pads. That way I wasn't continually breaking those bonds on the wires. I did come back in with some light gray pastel powder to tone down the starkness of the decals and try and blend them into the tanks. This original kit also came with some plastic wooden fencing, but it was kind of this generic, ugly brown color. And I was like, no, we got to fix that. So the first step is to repaint all the bits with Vallejo Buff. I love this color for fresh pine wood look, but we're not going for fresh pine. Over the top of this, once it was all dried and varnished, I put some thinned raw umber paint. I used a stiff flat brush to quickly cover all the fencing surfaces. I then cleaned the brush with odorless thinner, and I dabbed off most of that thinner, but left just a touch of it onto the flat bristles. And now the brush can be used to wipe away some of the oil paint and leave a streaked look. Once you're satisfied with the look, set them aside for a few days and let the oil paint set up. Speaking of setup, here's the final setting for this Golden Flame Blue Coal and Fuel Oil Company. And that's a wrap for this week's Model Railroad Update. So let's see how everything looks with trains running. One main industry to go, and we'll be ready to add more scenery and details. Until next time, happy model railroading.